Hey, what's up? This is the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm DJ Keo. We're back again.
We are
Let's get
back
into it.
again. Let's get into it. Okay. This is for all the weed heads out there, right? But can you imagine that Jamaica is running out of weed? How does that happen?
When I saw this story, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing I've ever. This is like Colombia running out of cocaine or something like that. Yeah, like this is the thing that you guys are known for.
Right.
And to have some kind of calamity where you just there's a shortage. I cannot fathom how there's a shortage in Jamaica of all places. And I'm half Jamaican, so I'm representing my people here, but that's wild.
It's like no more water,
wild.
The ocean's drying up.
Exactly. So now the thing that's funny about it is, well, I shouldn't say it's funny, but farmers, they got hit with it because of the curfew. So because of COVID, there's a curfew and they want people to stop working and go home like 6 o'clock or whatever. And so a lot of people farm the thing all through the night or later in the night when it's cooler.
Right.
And
they can't get to it.
It's become a problem for the farmers with the curfew. And the other thing is that they had a drought and they had a bad hurricane, I think, last year.
The hurricane, it sort of wiped out a lot of crops and everything, huh?
Yeah. So, musicians, DJs, this is a big thing. This is a big deal for them. There's a lot of people concerned about this. More so than food.
Someone like in this article, this guy was like basically flaming like the Jamaicans. He was, he's just basically saying that, because Jamaica has a marijuana shortage, it's kind of embarrassing for the country of Jamaica.
Yeah, you've let down the nation of Jamaica.
Right. I mean,
think about
forget the beautiful beaches, the awesome resorts. It's just like you're running out of weed, and this is embarrassing. What is going on, Jamaica? And the other thing is this, though. What's up?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing is this, right? They also make a very good point in the article because countries are starting to legalize marijuana, right?
Yeah, so there's a greater demand than ever before.
So now it's not like as illegal as, it once was, because now, you have growers in America, you have growers all over the world, and they're selling it legally. So now, and you have like Jamaica, and they, I don't know if it's like completely the hurricane, the drought, the 6 p.m. curfew, but I would also have to think that could they actually grow enough marijuana to actually supply some of these sort of legal, marijuana countries? And the other thing is, like, why, as a country, the United States, why would states that are like, now legal, like New Jersey is recreational legal now.
Yeah.
Why would states say, hey, you know what, we're going to make weed legal recreationally, even medicinally, and we're also going to buy it outside of our state. And in the state of Maryland, medical marijuana, right, you have to be a grower in the state of Maryland to actually, be able to sell this in like dispensaries. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like Canada legalized it, I think 2 years ago.
Oh, the recreationally?
Yeah, they were not prepared for it at all. It was the government took over because we had dispensaries. That was like a gray area where you could make it and you could buy it from the dispensary. And it's like California where I have a doctor's note. I have anxiety, and then you're like, okay, fine, whatever. They didn't bother with you. But so they were making it before, and it was no problem. And then the government took it over, and when I say disaster, they were selling moldy weed. They had the packages were like the levels weren't
moldy
right,
weed,
the numbers weren't
what
right.
Is that with that?
Oh, insane. We had shortages. The police were still arresting people, even though we're like, "What? I thought this was legal." Like they're just making excuses to ticket people and give them tickets. Like it was nobody was on the same page for a year and a half. Wow. And like it finally got around to because they allowed the dispensaries to open back up again, and that's the thing that saved them. Because when the government took it over, you couldn't buy it in the store or in any place. You'd have to have it mailed to you. So they're using the postal system to mail you drugs, and this is their big idea. This is their brilliant idea. And yeah, it didn't work out great. It didn't work out great.
So when you think about again, like some of these states that are legal and have dispensaries, they are, stocking up their dispensaries with growers in their state. They're not buying marijuana across state lines. It's ridiculous because, if you really think about it, you want to sort of like have your entire, that industry, taxes, banking, the whole nine. You want that in a state silo. You don't want that, outside of your state. So when they first,
that's the point of it.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, you know what? Opposed to this being illegal, let's make
Make
legal.
some money out of it.
let's get the banking system involved, and then let's collect taxes and let's make some money, right? So I don't know, like in Jamaica. Now that a lot of countries, definitely the United States, have a lot of states that are, that have, marijuana laws now that are legal. How are Jamaicans, growers in Jamaica, making money now? Because again, it's a little different to ship, marijuana like across seas. How are they making money?
It's difficult to ship it like to America or any other place because there's places where it's not legal.
Right.
So you have to cross state lines in places that don't allow it to be crossed.
Exactly.
Like it's a whole gray area. And I think the problem is that there's no consensus for how to grow it, where to grow it, where it's allowed to come from, how they plan to make money from it. And I don't think that a lot of the governments were even prepared for how this thing would work. It was just let's put it on this bill. Okay, it passed. Okay, great. All right, now we're in the drug business. And that's as far as they thought about it. And so there's all of these things you keep having the infrastructure problems and like all this other stuff. And Jamaica's another, because it's not technically legal in Jamaica. Really? So like it's still they don't want, well, the criminals are the ones growing it. It's not like a sanctioned farm or whatever. So that's why it's not technically legal the way they're presenting it to you. And it's extra gray area because the government's making money from it, but they don't want it to grow, and they're kind of embarrassed about it too. So it's like a thing of, well, it's here, but don't brag about it, but it's here. We'll just deal with it. Yeah, that's what it is. That's technically what it is, though. Which I think is funny because you could do this better, but they're not prepared to deal with it better. So you get what you get.
My goodness, this is, dude. I don't know what's going on, but again, if it's not legally legal, and obviously, a long time ago, they were able to ship it illegally into different countries, Mexico, America, wherever, Canada, North America. And then it's sold like, illegally on the streets or whatever. But again, like a state like New Jersey, now that it's like recreationally legal, it's just like all these street level people or whoever, they're out of business. It's just like now you can just walk into a dispensary. It's low hanging fruit. And it's the smartest thing to do when it comes to states, right? It's just like, get these fools off the street. And now you can regulate it. Consumers can go into these dispensaries and choose anything they want. You want like a sativa, you want like an indica, you want like an edible, whatever you want. You want something to put in some tea. It's right. That's
how my dad uses it. He uses it for tea. That's how you're supposed to use it.
Just if you want to drop something in some tea, or you want to even drop something in some alcohol, whatever. It's regulated. The states are making money. You also put the street, dealers that are doing it illegally out of business. because why would you go and buy illegal marijuana in a state that's selling it recreationally when you can just walk into a dispensary and get it? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right?
The problem with Canada is that the drug dealers were still selling the good stuff, and the government was selling you the moldy stuff. So it was an easy choice there.
Right.
For a long time. It was a very easy choice.
It's not like that now, is it?
No, it's not.
Exactly. You know, they got,
because the dispensaries got back involved. They
got better.
They got it's a better product.
Exactly.
So I think the government realized, well, we're not good at this, so we'll just tax it and then we'll make our money like that.
Oh my goodness, that is insane, dude. I mean, just imagine that, a place like Jamaica. This next piece we're going to get into, it's Taylor Swift. She's re-recording Fearless. Now, just touch base on this a little bit. Why does this make sense and why is this important?
So Taylor has been in a dispute with, is it Scooter Braun? I can't remember her manager.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in dispute for the longest time over her publishing.
Right.
And so she wanted to buy it flat out. And the guy who owns it was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to sell you this. This is priceless to me. I'm making millions of dollars a year off of your publishing. Why would I sell this? And so she went public and did the blonde girl thing. And she cried about it. And everyone's like, oh, Taylor, but you signed these things away. That's your fault. And so she came up with a new strategy of, I'm going to just re-record all of my music and I'm going to license my music that I re-recorded. So she went back and this is the first album, Fearless. Mm-hmm. She went back, recorded the music again and recorded the lyrics again. And now she's going to re-release the new version of it.
Right.
And so going forward, it's going to be fine, but she lost a ton of money because of this. And when you're a young artist, no one's thinking about publishing the way they're just like, oh, you're gonna give me $2 million right now for rights to my songs? Okay, like that's how a lot of artists are thinking about this stuff, and they're not thinking long term. Like, do you remember when Michael Jackson bought the Beatles catalog? And I think it was Paul McCartney was fighting him over it.
Yeah, he bought. They ended up selling that, right? Or does the Michael Jackson
he sold it? He sold it to Sony, I think.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But you made hundreds of millions of dollars off of the Beatles catalog,
right?
And Paul McCartney is just asked out. There's nothing he can do.
No, I mean, it's the publishing. You know, you don't own that.
Yeah,
now, didn't Taylor Swift, didn't Scooter Braun, didn't he sell the publishing to another company for like $300 million?
He sold it. Yeah, he sold it to another company, which I think is genius.
Yeah.
Scooter, in all of this, Scooter Braun is continuing to win. He's not lost in any situation on this entire
It's
story.
The business. You know, it's not like he's doing something illegal, right? I mean, that's just the business.
He was managing her.
Mm-hmm.
She gave the rights away. He scooped them up, and he's been printing money ever since. And now when she realized it, she was like, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever." And she tried to fight in court, and the court was like, "Get out of here, man! What are you wasting our time for?
It's all right.
Sign this. It's legal." And it's kind of similar to, you know the story about Dave Chappelle with his show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's nothing you could do. Comedy Central had the rights to it. And he went to Netflix and was like, hey, just stop running it. And he asked the people to stop watching it. They did.
Yeah.
They devalued it.
Yeah.
And now they just said, all right, fine, you can have it back. Now that they don't need it anymore, which is cool. But Taylor still wanted to record albums, still make music. And so she had to drop off the map like Prince did when he was fighting Warner Brothers.
Right.
You had to drop off the map, change your name, and be like, this, don't worry about this thing anymore. It's worthless to me. This is the new stuff you got to worry about. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to do that. And so I understand, like, it's a tough pill to swallow. I've signed publishing deals before. And when I signed them, I was like, it's going to be great. I'm just going to get some money real quick.
I just want to make music.
Business. Yeah, I just want to make business. Make music. It's going to be great. It's a business. You have to think about like a business. Like, what is these things worth to you? And the thing is, too, you have to bet on yourself. And a lot of these super artists, Katy Perry, Drake, all these super artists, they don't bet on themselves. They bet on the immediate money, and they take that. Mm-hmm. And, if you were a person that you sat on, like Jay-Z's worth Riz considerably after he got his masters back and his
Right.
publishing. That's the factor. He bet on himself.
Yeah.
And a lot of these artists, they refuse to do that, and then you get what you get. So like I think that it's going to work out for her in the long run, but she lost out in the hundreds of millions of dollars because she took too long to wake up to this thing.
I think this is really important because two things. I remember I was looking at a Drink Champs episode, and De La Soul was on it, and
yeah, there's
their
another
label,
group.
right? Their label won't sell them their masters. I think they own it for 25 or 30 years, something like that. And then once the label head was trying to then put it on streaming services, on Tidal specifically, Jay-Z was like, no, we don't want to do that. We're not going to do that. So then he backed off, So now the only type of music you can hear on streaming services from De La Soul is stuff they made and they own, right? So all of the classic,
the recent stuff. Classic stuff you can't get.
Right.
They're losing out on millions of dollars.
Maybe, because there are some other things we're gonna touch on later on that also brings us right back full circle to this. But I think the really important point here I got out of this article is this is sort of like a bossy move because even though you recorded a work and now an album record, now a label owns it and they own your publishing, right? But you still own the rights to, you own something, right? So what a lot of artists are thinking about doing is they're like, okay, well, if you own my masters, I'm going to re-record this album and now I'm going to own these masters of the same album, maybe add a little something different to it. And that's basically what she's doing. She's re-recording that. She may end up making a lot more money off of this re-recorded album because it's hers and now she has the fan base, and it's just like, hey, I mean, she may make a boatload of money from this, but Scooter has already made bags off of this. He is chilling.
I think too, the original pressings of her albums is going to be worth a lot of money. You can get original record from her from the first album because the records are hard to find now, but you can see even CDs are hard to find. Like if you can get a sealed original pressing of the first version, it's going to be a collector's item. Yeah, you got to treat it like it's comic books now.
Dude, speaking of records, I know, speaking of records, we were talking about this like the last time we spoke, how we thought vinyl was coming back. I was in believe it or not, a Guitar Center yesterday, right? And, right. I was looking for I wanted that little mix track, the Newmark mix track Platinum Effects controller. So I was just like, I'm just going to go get it, right? And, Guitar Center does sell vinyl. And they had Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory, the album, which is a double album. And it was $35.
Yeah.
$35,
you cannot get,
dude.
I bought that when I bought it was like $20 when I bought it. It was like, it's a bunch of years ago, but it's still like $20. So it's jumped up to 30 something now.
And I picked it up and I was like, okay, let me buy this too, because I thought it would be like $25, $28, because I have the CD, but I don't have the vinyl, the wax, right? And so the guy was like, oh, this is $35. I was like, yeah, I'll wait for that. Right? I was like, I'll wait.
You're like,
for that,
all right.
I should have, I should have picked it up because it was the only one there. And places like Guitar Center, Urban Outfitters, Best Buy, they're selling classic albums. You can go to a Best Buy and buy, 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan, and that's all that other sort of stuff, right?
You got to think about how the culture has expanded so far that you can buy this kind of vinyl in Best Buy. And you can buy the CD back in the day, but to sell the vinyl in Best Buy, that's crazy. That's crazy to me.
Well, like before vinyl went sort of dark, Best Buy had a huge vinyl collection, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man, but it's kind of weird.
Like Urban Outfitters and these kind of stores that sell clothing, they sell their records too, and a record player.
Yeah, it's hip.
It's
It's
this
cool,
trendy thing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's a cool
trendy.
thing.
Exactly. Where do you think this Taylor Swift thing goes? I mean, do you think that this is a model? Because here's a big artist that actually said, you know what, I'm going to re-record one of my dopest albums and sell it and own it myself.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is, do you think that other artists will follow suit? Like, hey, you know what, if she did it, and again, Taylor Swift is like, one of the largest recording artists, in the, like,
in the
in
world.
galaxy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the factor is you have to have either your record company's backing or you have to have some money. Because, to make the album that she had, that's like a couple $100,000 to record that thing.
Yeah.
And like you're not recording that in your bathroom at your house. Like you're recording that in the actual studio with good mics, and you need the proper compressors,
SSL board.
Yeah, you need the proper SSL board.
Maybe
like,
even a 2-inch reel, huh? If you're smart.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back and get a 2-inch reel. So like, there's a lot of factors that for regular people, I guess some rappers they could probably pull that off. Because you can do the basics in your house. You got the beat still. It's easy to recreate it. Whereas for artists like Taylor, I think that, and the thing too is for rappers, you can't just take the vocals that you use. They have to be different.
Yeah. You have to re-record them,
You have to physically re-record the vocals. You can't, because a lot of times, you got the stems for your audio. You can just, just pop that, but you can't use those.
No.
If that thing overlaps, it disqualifies your thing.
Everything has to be re-recorded. Everything.
Yeah. The whole thing from scratch. You have to start over from scratch. So I think that it definitely could be something for the future, but I don't know if there's enough people who realize the values in your masters and not the music that you made. And I think basically people are starting to understand that, because I was thinking when this thing was going on with Jay-Z and De La Soul, I thought more people would realize, oh no, we need the masters. The masters is what's important, not the songs that we give you, and not wait until you go cut us a check. The masters are important, especially in this day and age where there's no value in you signing to a record company. And so like I honestly I assumed that it would jump on and more people will realize this and start trying to do their own thing. But, it's still frowned upon to be independent in this day and age, which is with the 360 deals and all this crap. That's insane to me. But I think culturally, everybody's still on the easy path of let me just take the check and let me just go do whatever.
They want those bags up front, I mean,
yeah.
When back in the day, so I came up, in artist development. So basically, I would find artists, right? Put my own money into them, bring them into the studio, have them do stuff, create a demo for them, a package, and try to sell them, right, to different labels or even management companies. I always wanted my money up front. I didn't care about like back end money. I was like, dude, I don't care about back end money. I'm like, yo, give me my loot up front. I get it up front. It is over. I am done. I'm good. I got, whatever I put in and plus a nice, percentage of, a profit on top of that. I am good. So, a lot of artists don't understand that. Even producers don't understand that, like upfront money or back end money. So it's just like, you can wait and get the 2 or 3 points, but it's
2021 and people still don't understand the music industry with all of the resources available to everybody and all of the videos online and all the horror stories. People still don't understand the music industry.
They don't.
I find that amazing to me. Like when I was in it, I read every book I could find. I tried to find out, like the first book I read, it was about the Sugar Hill Gang and all the stuff they went through.
Oh my goodness,
I just wanted to consume any knowledge I can get to have me prepared for what was going down. And some of it was useful. A lot of it, like you can't be prepared for it. You just got to get into it and see it. Because a lot of stuff is like, I wouldn't say misinformation, but anecdotal, I would say. And so everyone's telling you their take on it, and sometimes it's sugar coated, and it's made to make them look better than it really was. So that's a factor too. But at the same time, you should know what you're getting into. In any other business, if you want to sell shoes, you should know everything about the shoe business before you start selling shoes. And this is one of those things where people care about, I need to make a song, and that's as far as their knowledge goes for what to do next. Like, it's very vague for it's a B and then profit. Get down to the line profit, and they don't know how to get to the profit part. And I think that's terrible in this day and age.
Every week we talk, we always sort of come back to the same subject line, which is basically the artist, the creativity, the artist, the recording artist, man, they are getting just straight up screwed.
Hammer.
I mean, the labels, the stream. I mean, like, how can the streaming services? I mean, that is just that's a book, a novel in and of itself. How they just came in and said, "Hey, we are not going to pay you, and we're not profitable ourselves, right?"
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's a Ponzi scheme.
So it's just like, it is so amazing to me. And this article right here is extremely fascinating. It's about the here
royalties.
We go right here. Yeah. Well, it's about this. I guess this was like a piece where the guy or the person who owns this service was like, "Hey, I'm going to create a piece and I'm going to put it in a magazine or whatever." You probably, I don't know, maybe you paid for it, maybe you didn't. But it's fascinating because it's really interesting and exciting, when you first look at it, right?
Yeah. Well, because like he's offering he's giving you solutions for the problems that arise because of the streaming services.
Right. So, okay, so this article here is basically about a service called Rhythmic Rebellion. And he's basically these people, which one is these people who own this service, they're basically saying that, okay, you don't necessarily, yes, you're getting ripped off of, by the streaming services. They're not going to pay you. Just like, the 1% has the ability to say, pay me, and that's it, and all these other mediums that are now kind of dead, CDs, cassette players, cassette tapes, vinyl in certain areas, it's kind of like dead. But what this person is advocating is that, hey, you know what? There are ways that you can make money and own every single thing you do. What do you think about this service here? I mean, so basically this is like a service where it's like, hey, you know what? Opposed to just creating an album, right? Why not create an entire experience, a package around your creativity?
Yeah. So he was saying sell physical copies, but with new music that's not on your thing.
Right.
Or you can go the route of like karaoke, where you give the instrumental to the song, or you can sell the instrumental to the song, or you give the lyrics and stems, and so you could either do a remix, you buy the song, and then you're allowed to do a remix with it, or you buy the instrumental, the proper instrumental, not the cheesy karaoke version that's made out of MIDI or whatever. You get the actual proper song, and then you can go do your karaoke thing with this. And so you're making little ways for you to make your money back versus your 0.000 of a penny from streaming.
You forgot a zero.
Yeah. The 18 zeros of a penny.
I keep asking myself, is that even, that's a few cents of a cent, right?
Yeah. We went back from pennies on the dollar now to 0.00000 of a penny.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
It's crazy. Oh, interesting thing really quickly, he said in this article stated was that right here is, even if you were a small artist back in the day when you had vinyl and you had physical things, right?
Yeah.
You can put out an album and make $20,000 at $15 a pop. You know, you can sell 20,000 units and make $300,000.
It's easy.
Which was a great living.
Rappers like E40 and Master P were selling tapes out of the back of their car. That's why they're famous.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jay-Z did it too. Rockefeller, they were selling tapes. I have original pressing of Dead Presidents from Jay-Z. And like these are the things that they were selling. They were selling the original vinyl or the vinyl out of their car, out of the trunk. And, you know, people were on it. They supported the artists like that. And that was cool. And these guys now they've seceded so much ground to the streaming services and how to support the channel. Like how I talk about on my channel, on my YouTube channel, I sell t-shirts. So if you like the YouTube videos I'm making, I'm like, well, just buy the t-shirt. It doesn't matter if you like the t-shirt, you're going to wear it. That's how you can support me. And this is the same thing that artists could do. You sell the t-shirts, you sell stickers, you sell posters, you sell CDs.
All your digital products, everything. And
you do it from your website. You don't let somebody else do it. You package that thing up yourself and you mail it out. There's a thing now with I don't know if you're familiar with this, where people are making independent comic books, and it's the same thing. They go to printers, they print them up. They're just in their house, just folding comic books and put it in the thing and mailing them out.
That's kind of cool, right?
And these guys are making millions of dollars.
That's kind of cool.
Just because of the fact that they said, I'm going to sit in my house and I'm going to fold these books and mail these things out to my fans.
Because the industry, like the comic book industry, may even like try to push you away or try to like exclude you from being part of the boys club. And people now today, like you said, it's just like, you know what? I'm going to create this. I'm an artist. I'm going to create this and sell it. And like you said, make millions of, make, you know, a lot of money, make a living doing it.
At least 100,000 you can do.
I mean, I mean, so, okay. So the Rhythmic Rebellion, what do you think about this? Because these people are basically saying this is a website that basically says, hey, you know what? You now have the ability to create a package of your creativity, all of your music, your album, all of your videos, maybe even some, you know, like studio session videos, you know, just videos of you just doing mundane things, you know, just exclusive stuff, right? Exclusive content, right? So it's now like a totally different experience. You're not saying, hey, you have to listen to my album on Spotify only or on Apple Music only, and that's the only experience you get. Because, like, for instance, Spotify doesn't have liner notes. As DJs, we love liner notes, right?
I love that about Tidal, that I can just click on the little eye and there's more information.
Apple Music doesn't have that, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have lyrics, you know?
I think because artists had a say about what was going on with Tidal, and that they made it that supports something they do, they would think of. And these other companies were just tech people that came up with the idea. And that's the end. That's as far as they thought about it.
That's the difference.
Tidal is trying to make an experience for you. And I respect them for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. But I kind of, this company is really interesting because they're like, okay, again, they're like, you can create your entire package, place it on our platform, and then sell the entire experience to your fans. But here's the thing. Your information, all of this content is still being placed on someone else's server, right?
Yeah.
So they still have the ability to, like, and again, this is just the tech person in me talking, right? They still have the ability to look at analytics, scrape analytics, you know, subtract analytics, grab data, user data, do data mining, grab and you know, all types of metadata and use it to their own advantage as well, right? So maybe them saying, hey, I'm gonna have this platform for you and we're only gonna take, you know, 5 or 10 or 15%. They may be collecting a lot more data on the back end that's more valuable to them,
sure.
Right?
The information they get from giving this service to you is more valuable. It would be better off if you did this yourself. And see, the thing is, though, I understand doing this yourself takes a ton of work.
It
And most
does.
people don't have the time or the understanding about the infrastructure to find a place to make t-shirts, to find a place to go print your CDs for you, whatever. These are things that general people don't have the idea or how much it costs or any of these things. And I'm pretty sure that this company, they're getting a bulk rate. So it benefits from them. They can get a better deal than you could get in the same situation because they probably put out so much content. So like I understand that, but like at the end of the day, it's still cheaper and you're gonna make more money in the long run if you do this yourself versus you let somebody else handle it.
Right. You can definitely use a service like this. I'm going
Oh
to
yeah.
look into the service a lot more. I'm going to do a bit more investigating. I think it'd be
Mhm.
really interesting to bring those guys on the show or whoever it is and just talk to them about the service. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I,
But
this is things that artists and people who are who musicians or whatever, they need to know these things exist
yeah,
and there's a solution for you eating ramen out of noodles. Like,
right.
there's solutions for you. You
Mhm.
can get ahead. If you put the work in for the music, there's a way for you to get the people to hear your music
Yeah.
outside of just leaving it in Spotify's hands or whatever.
I,
So I think this kind of thing is good.
I still think that this is I still think that this is an excellent opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if nothing else, to give it a try. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the person's heart is in it's in the right place because they're saying, you know what, we can still make money. You're not making money off of streaming services again, not unless you're the
No.
1%.
Yeah.
But and we talk about how Prince and other artists put their music first on their websites. They have huge fan
Mm-hmm.
base, right? But they put their music on their websites first for 30 days and they sell it that way. I
Yeah.
can remember back in the day releasing music like via CD or wax and just pressing
Mm-hmm.
up 1,000 copies. But hey, you know what? I spent money pressing up 1,000 copies. I'm making that
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
coming to me directly. I'm selling it directly to the record company or the
Mm-hmm.
distributor. And it's not like
Yeah.
the distributor saying, okay, give me 100 and I'll pay you once they're sold. It's just like, no, dude. I mean, how many do you want? You buy them from me, But
Yeah.
this
And it's
company
on
right
you to do
here,
the work.
right, exactly. This company right here this sounds really interesting. This sounds really exciting. I would like to know a
Mm-hmm.
lot more about this company. What is it? What sort of what's your take? What sort of data do
Mm-hmm.
you collect? How do you promote it? And the other thing is, they also have an app that you can download and get the whole experience. That just means you're
Mm-hmm.
downloading another app,
Yeah. I
right?
know.
So it's just like, oh, not another music app, and
Yeah.
so there are a lot of things, going on here. And obviously you don't want users to download something because it could be very large songs, videos, things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't want to do that. But again, I think I'm really excited about this. Like I said, I'm going to find out more about this service and this company because this is extremely fascinating to know about this Rhythmic Rebellion. This is the Rhythmic Rebellion. This is very
Yeah.
cool. If the
Well,
idea is great, I hope it works out.
they're disruptive, and you need these kind of disruptive things in the space to kind
Right.
of push the thing forward. And they're doing the things that people need to do. If you are just relying on Spotify for your checks, especially now when you can't tour, like this is a godsend to you. And the other idea is that they're saying treat Spotify like the radio station.
Yeah.
You play your song there, you get to listen, but you get the real experience when you go to your website.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you buy whatever from your website, whatever
Mhm.
the CD is or the vinyl, whatever. That's when you get the real experience. But if you want to hear it real quick and see if it's any good, then you just go there to Spotify or Tidal, whatever. And I
Mhm.
think for this thing to work, people need to change their thought process about what it means to listen to music, because we went from I want to support say like Wu-Tang. I got a Wu-Tang poster. I bought the album. I bought the singles. I have
stickers.
The tape. I got stickers from Wu-Tang. I bought everything I could from Wu-Tang. I went to their concerts. I bought a T-shirt from Wu-Tang. They made a bunch of money from me back in '93 whenever they came out. Like they made a bunch of money, and that's what it used to be. You like an artist, you support them. Now I think that people support artists passively, where I listen to them on YouTube, and then I'll listen to them on Spotify, and that's it. I check out for whatever I'm doing for the artist, and we got to get back to, actively supporting the artist, because this thing, especially because of the touring and all this kind of crap, where they can't make money like they used to. This is a way to keep this thing afloat, and we got to keep this thing afloat, because who knows what's going to happen next year or the year after or even this year.
Well, here's the other thing, right? So if we know that we have to get users who support us off of Spotify, like, again, use Spotify, think of streaming services like the radio. And then if you want to get the entire experience, you have to go to someone's website, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that's even possible with, millennials and Generation Y, the Zers, all these younger generations, kind of understanding that, hey, if you really truly want to support the artists that you love so much, maybe you need to not only listen to their music on streaming, but also knowing that they're not making all their money off of streaming, but also go to their own separate websites, so then you can have a much fuller experience and even support the artists even more from that standpoint. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that a lot of artists do not take the branding part seriously.
Yeah.
A lot of them have like some of the worst websites I've ever seen. There's no information.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find them. Maybe they have like an Instagram. Sometimes they have a Twitter, but that's it. And like you need a central spot where you can get all of your information from this artist. And see, the thing is, though, if you find an artist and then you go to their website and they're like, oh, I got a cool T-shirt here. I got headphones. I got whatever, a cup, a mug.
Yeah.
If you can see these things and you like the artist, you're more inclined to go get something from them.
Yeah.
And then other people can see you walking around with this mug or a purse or whatever it is, a tote bag, whatever it is. When people can see you walking around with these things, they're like, well, I like that. Let me get one too, or whatever. Like this thing, it snowballs outside of it. I know, like, say what we're talking about Wu-Tang. Everybody had the Wu-Tang stickers. They were literally everywhere. People were trying to figure out how to get them.
Yeah.
And so that created the demand for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that made it helpful for their band to grow. And people they put their song on Spotify and then they do their Instagram posts and that's it. They check out. Maybe they got a Facebook page, but that's it. That's as far as it goes for them. And you have to do all this other stuff. You got to get back in there.
Listen, the do you even, so with the younger generation, Instagram and also Twitter and things like, it's just so much faster than going to someone's website. I mean, you can post, you can like record something live on Twitter or Instagram really quickly. I mean, you could just do everything from your phone, so websites are a little weird. I was listening to some a YouTuber, and he was basically saying that social media is basically dead. You need to have a website and create a mailing list,
Yeah.
And I kind of understand that coming from, where I come from, but if you don't know websites, maintaining a website can be, very difficult.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's because the thing is, though, you set up the Instagram page and Instagram does the hard work for you, maintaining Instagram.
Yeah.
And so like, it's a thing where people just assume, oh, I'll just make this site. I don't have to update it. I don't have to add anything to it.
Right.
I don't need to change with the times, with the plugins for WordPress or whatever thing they're using. I guess the best thing would be, was it Squarespace, a company like that does everything for you,
or Wix,
and or Wix, or whatever. I just think Wix is cheap though. There's something about Wix. I just feel like it's lower end. Even though Squarespace and Wix is probably on par as far as what they're giving you.
Wix
has that feel of, oh, this is cheap.
Wix looks totally cheap, dude. I'm serious,
I've made websites on Wix, man. It just looks terrible. I don't know. I feel terrible about that.
It's the
we probably have to cut this out.
It's almost like, remember GeoCities, like when Yahoo was
yeah,
doing
that's what Wix is.
Exactly. It's just like, oh,
Wix
this is a GeoCities thing. Or even like when you get Verizon or Comcast back in the day, they used to like give you web space, and it's just like, oh, you can do this. It's just like, no, it's not the same. Right, it's not the same. Yeah, this is again, this is a fascinating company. I want to know more about this company. I think if we can, we should like try to get these guys on the Behind the Groove podcast to talk about them and just, again, just dig a little deeper, like find out what's going on. How does this work? I'm not like the other thing is like karaoke. Is this like really karaoke? I mean, where are we doing that?
Yeah, I know.
Where are we doing karaoke? I mean,
no one's going outside to do karaoke
Zoom
right
karaoke
now. So.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, in stems, a lot of regular listeners, just your regular normal listeners, they don't know about stems,
Yeah.
Stems
but for
is
DJs
like
and producers, stems is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Right.
So like, I think it's a targeted market, and it's a small market. It's very niche.
Yeah. My brother was in he submitted a remix for this artist, and they provided him the stems, right? And it's just like, well, these stems, they're great for, just doing remixes or, just doing mashups or something like that. So yeah, for DJs, the stems are work out really well if you're really into the artist, so that's pretty cool. But again, the Rhythmic Rebellion, this is a fascinating company. I would like to know a lot more about this company, and let's see if we can get them on the show, man.
I think that would be cool.
That'd be cool. Okay, now, you know what? Okay, so here we go with this. I guess this is really unclaimed money, And speaking of, before we even get into this, I saw an article I was just reading like, just some of my news sources in the AM. And I guess it kind of looked like an ad, but I don't think it was an ad. I think it was sponsored by the actual news company. And it was like, hey, you can possibly have unclaimed money in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So I went to the website and, dude, I had unclaimed money.
That's
like
crazy.
Apparently, I used to work for a consulting company, and when I left, they sent me my last check. They mailed me my last check, but I had moved from the from the place I was living in.
Okay.
So it just went into unclaimed, and then it was like, oh, you have a couple $1,000s here, and I was like, what? And then like after like, I filled out the application, said it was me, proved it was me. 3 weeks later, I had a check in the mail, right? But this company right here, a company out of it's really a nonprofit that is in charge of collecting royalties, in the sort of I like to call it soap opera money, because a lot of times you may you hear that little background music in soap operas, and it's like someone is getting paid there, but we need to know who. So basically that's what this company is all about. Explain this, like what's going on with this, and also explain if you actually went to the website to see if you had any unclaimed funds, because I did and I don't. There's a little link there that
I didn't
says,
go to the website yet.
Yeah, there's a link there that says, see if you have some unclaimed funds. And I was like, oh, I'm going here, and I went in and I put in my government name, and it was like, oh, no, my name isn't there. But you need to check it out for real.
This actually happened to my dad like 10 years ago. No, I would say 8 or 9 years ago. My niece was just on YouTube, whatever, and she's like, that sounds like grandpa. my dad made a gospel album in like 1970 something, and apparently a lot of rappers and a lot of singers sampled his album, and he never knew about it. And he's been out of the music industry for decades, so he wasn't even thinking about it. And so my niece let him know about it, and he looked into it, and he was like, oh my God, like he had thousands of dollars. I think it was like $20,000 or something crazy from back royalties.
It's a nice bag.
Yeah, and from people that sample that didn't clear it or whatever. And so now he's getting royalty checks, I think every couple of months from it, from whatever they pay from Spotify and all these other things. But like this kind of thing, if you were an artist and you made an album, or whatever, you have to go use this thing just to check it out. A lot of music I made, I was in a publishing with BMI and all that stuff. So like my things, I should have got it already. So I didn't, that's why I never bothered to look at it yet. But I'm definitely gonna check it out just in case.
But you know, so this is the organization is called AFM and SAG-AFTRA. They basically deal with intellectual property rights. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So basically, if you have music and even radio too, right? Like background music on radio, right? Because I remember when I first heard my song for the first time on radio, it was as background music on NPR.
It's surreal, man. I gotta say, when you hear yourself on the radio for the first time, it is surreal.
And I was in the car with my wife, and I was like, "That's me," you know. She was like, "That's you," exactly. You know, but it was background music. But they basically are in charge of collecting all of these royalties based on your music being played in soap operas, background music, and movies and things of that nature. And you know, they pay featured and non-featured artists. I guess a non-featured artist would be someone like who played the drums on your track or something like that, right? Yeah, so something like that, right? So, and they collect all these funds from these different, you know, organizations, these different agencies. This is a nonprofit. And then what they do is they try to find the artists and, you know, try to distribute that money out to them, you know, like, hey, you know what, your song was played, you know, in the soap opera, and you're supposed to get paid. And they basically say they mail out here. It says they mail out between $1,000 to $1,500, you know, to artists, but they always mail out. You know, if an artist has reached $50, they always mail out checks, you know, based on that. So, so this again. So, and this is something that a lot of artists don't do. They just think that they can sign up for BMI or ASCAP and then it's over. There are a lot of other agencies you have to sign up with so that you make sure you're getting royalties from overseas. You're getting royalties from, like, you know, radio play, royalties from your music being played in movies or on television shows. It's just not BMI or ASCAP. There are so many other like services you have to sign up for. And you coming from the industry, deep in the industry, explain how that works and why artists leave. I was watching a video and this one artist was saying artists leave a lot of money on the table. How does that work?
A ton of money.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why is because there's a different agency for every situation.
Right.
So there's a TV agency that handles your money for TV. There's one for movies. There's the guilds, like the SAG thing. They handle actors and that kind of stuff. You have things for like background and commercials. That's a whole other agency.
It's totally different.
And then in each of these things, like the things that we're talking about here, that's for North America. It's a whole other thing for Europe. And each of these other countries, they have the little tiny groups, and you don't know if somebody like a Mexican soap opera decided to use your song in the background. You don't know these things because there's no overlap. There's no centralized system, because a lot of these things happen before the internet really became heavy, where you can kind of keep track of things. So a lot of times an artist doesn't even, or the person who's trying to license things, they have no idea who the artist is, or they didn't get back to them in time. And they put the money aside because they don't want to get sued, but they never found out who the name of the person was. And so it turns into this whole mess. It's kind of like the doing patents back in the day, where, you know, you had to go to the patent office and some people didn't bother filling out the paperwork or whatever. And so you're just millions of dollars you could have gained if you just put the patent aside for whatever your new doorknob or whatever it is. Right. And it's the same kind of situation here. Most people do not pay attention to the business side of where these things are coming from, and even know that, there's a different agency that handles, or a different guild that handles this thing in another country. And so that's a huge factor. So like this is why I wanted to do this story. This is very fascinating. And the fact that it's happened to somebody in my family, like directly that I know of, it's kind of one of those things where you have to know about this stuff. You're losing out on money because somebody's going to take this money. So you claim it or it's just going to disappear in the ether.
So first and foremost, there are so many other sources that you can receive money from your work, from your songs, not just from BMI or, streaming or something like that. Like you said, your song may be played in a soap opera as background music. Your song may be played in a movie as background music, So you need people around you who understand this sort of stuff so they can make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So you're getting what you're supposed to get across the board, even from European agencies. It's just like, hey, if your music is played here, check it out. Because like, one of my first albums, it did a lot better in Europe just based on the genre of music, And so it was just like, hey, I need to make sure that this stuff isn't being played in commercials, on television shows over there, just I had to make sure. So again, it is possible that a lot of artists are leaving a lot of money on the table. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
sure.
The other factor too is that the people here are trying to do the right thing. The person in the soap opera, they filed out the paperwork and they went to the correct place to get the information about who to give the money to.
Yeah.
You didn't do your due diligence on your end.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to they are strict about this in film and TV and all these other things. They're very strict about it.
Oh,
they do not take chances.
Imagine like you have a blockbuster film and you use someone's music and it's just like, dude, that money that you made from that film, it now belongs to me.
Yeah. They do not play around. So if you're upset about it, that's not the factor is not the movie or whatever. That's not the people. A lot of times, the person who's supposed to get the royalties or the mechanical rights to a song, they think they've given it to the correct person. So, like for instance, if there's two writers on the song, one writer filled out all the paperwork, one writer went to make sure they're part of this agency or this guild or whatever, and the other writer didn't do any of these things. No. They're just on SOCAN or BMI or ASCAP, and that's it.
That's it.
The other, when they do this thing to get the mechanical rights, they're just going to look at the one guy that did all the right things and just assume this is the only person I need to talk to. And it happens all the time. And so that's the factor where these guys, they're not trying to be malicious or they didn't think they're not trying to do something evil or whatever. They just look at it or this person has the correct information. I'll just talk to this person. And so it's really on you to make sure that your stuff is right.
I mean, this company has collected like over $400 million in the last 6 to 7 years. So they're like, hey, we have the money. We just, it's difficult to find these people, to, distribute this, what they're supposed to get paid. So again, if you are an artist and you just have your BMI or ASCAP and you think that it's all about streaming and that's it, it is not all about streaming. There is a lot of money that you could possibly leave on the table. And I know the other thing that people may think as well. You have a lot of companies right now that, offer royalty-free music. You pay a subscription, right?
Yeah.
Like Epidemic Sounds and like all these other places. And it's just like, hey, you can use all these songs, I think that's also... That's also to me like a Spotify because
it's the same system.
Right.
You pay the monthly fee and then they divvy up the whatever.
Right. But
it's the same kind of Ponzi scheme.
Right. So, exactly. Because again, this is the tech side of me, if you're saying, hey, if this company is saying, hey, you know what, if you put your music up here and people, use it, to download it to, put on their, use it as royalty-free music, we'll give you a percentage, yada, yada, yada. If they own the data, they have the ability to scrape analytics. They have the ability to subtract analytics. They have the ability to collect data that you will never see. It's just not the same. When you own every aspect of what you do creatively, no one can take anything away from you at all.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to make sure that you make really excellent business moves and sign really great business deals that you know that you own, if not all of it, a large majority of your work. And when I say large majority, I'm talking like 80, 85%, right?
As much as you can. As much as you physically can.
Yeah,
Keep everything you can.
So
bet on yourself. Like we said in the other article.
Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself.
So artists, if you're out there making music and you think it's all about just, signing up with ASCAP and BMI and just being heard on streaming services, you may want to go to, what is this again? This is AFM and SAG-AFTRA, which is, again, they have a link on their website where you can see if you actually have any funds, unclaimed funds, from, just collecting royalties from, people playing your music on television, movies, things of that nature. So you may want to check that out. Again, this is a pretty cool article, man. It's just, it's so sad that, when we were talking about Gary Newman and we were both, laughing that, back in the day, if he was getting $2 an album, he was getting bank, right?
Yeah.
But, now he's getting like, a couple percentage of a cent. Yeah. And he streamed 1 million times and got, $44.48. And he's just like, how did that happen? It's just like the streaming services are not your friend. I mean, it's a way to get your music out there. You're basically, if you're not a large artist, you're basically giving your art away on these streaming services. So you really have to think about what sort of package you're going to put together to sell yourself. It's just the same as when we talk about streaming, DJ streaming. It's just like, I just don't want to be up there playing music. What else is going on around me? What else am I offering, right? Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's just like, if you're an artist in today's world, you have to really put a dope package together and sell that package and own that package first before you put any of your music on streaming services, because once it's on streaming services, you may not reap any benefits at all.
That's it. I think too, a lot of the artists like Gary Newman, I don't think he put the songs on Spotify. I think a company did it for him, and he was better off not putting it on Spotify to begin with. Like, I think that if you're only going to make $50, you were better off just selling it on iTunes, or just repressing a couple albums, selling on your website. You're probably better off.
I mean, Cars, which was a fabulous group. Cars was played in urban clubs, black clubs in New York. Their songs were played in black clubs. That's how popular they were. So, for a person of that magnitude to just make $45 on 1 million streams,
outrageous.
Again, outrageous. I mean, I'm going to keep hitting people upside the head with this, but how are governments, how are artists, how are we letting a company like Spotify, and I'm going to keep mentioning Spotify because they're bold they're bold about how they rip you off, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, how can we let this company exist with 345 million users globally and just not pay anyone? Yeah.
It's 340 million subscribers.
345 million globally.
Yeah, and they're paying the $9 a month or whatever. Yeah. It's not the free people. That's the paid people are paying the $9 a month. And they still are having trouble paying. They're not making money, and they're having trouble paying artists from any tier. Outside of, your Taylor Swift and your Adele, right, and maybe Drake. Beyonce, a lot of the other Jay-Z, artists, your Beyonce, these other artists, they're not doing well on being on the Spotify platform. But everybody's just accepted this is what it is, and this is how it is today. And it drives me crazy because this doesn't have to be the way it is.
if you were putting out an album today, if you were putting out a piece of work today, album, songs, a mixtape, whatever, how would you go about packaging it? How would you go about promoting it?
Well, first things, I wouldn't be focused on the wide scale of as many people as possible hearing my songs.
Right.
I would have it targeted and try and build those people up and try and get them into the mentality of, if I want to support this person, I need to buy something physical from him or her. That's the only way you can support me. And I make sure interviews, that's how I'm talking. You want to support this, you have to buy something physical from me.
Right.
And whatever it is, t-shirt, whatever it is, it has to be physical, and move away from the, once you just play my stuff. Because people think, oh no, I pay this $9 a month for Spotify. He's getting $3 out of this $9.
No, not at all.
People, honestly, the average person believes that they're properly distributing this money, because why would they do something other than that? That's illegal, or it's dirty. Why would they do that? And so that's the problem. So I would make sure that I hammer this. We're not eating. We're not making money from tours. The only way to support it, if you like my music, the only way is to physically buy something. And that's the focus. My focus would be small market, people in my hometown, or whatever. You got to build that up and make sure, because how many records do you need to sell in your hometown before you're doing okay? I used to sell mixtapes on the street. I had a box of tapes or CDs. I used to walk up to people and sell those. I only had to sell a couple of them, and that was good for the day.
And that was good, dude. I'm serious. I sold like 20 of those for like $10, 20, 30 of them. I'm good to, man, we used to make mixtapes, and we used to first sell them in New Jersey, then head over to like Manhattan, sell them in Manhattan, then head over to Brooklyn at a certain time of day, because, you didn't want to really deal with the stick-up kids out there. But, head over to Brooklyn and sell them out there. Then up like, in South Bronx, Grand Concourse, sell them up there. And dude, like sell, 50, 100 tapes in a day. Come back home, you're good.
That work on the ground, like you get your boots on the ground and walk around doing that hard work. Nobody wants to do that. They want to click a couple of mouse buttons and sit on
their phone, sit at home, do Instagram again, exactly. It's just like Instagram or a website, it depends on what you're trying to do,
It's more valuable. You go on the ground and knock on doors. You don't have to knock on doors, but like that physical thing of, listen to my thing, that it works. There would be no 50 Cent without that thing. There's no E40. There's no DJ Quick. There's no, like, you can go on the list of all the superstars. Puffy was doing a mixtape called the Big Mac. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
They had they had the thing, the Big Mac is the Biggie and Craig Mack thing, and they're selling it at Howard and all these other places. They're selling it.
Touring a little, and it was doing college tours, with that.
They're doing the college tours. It was the hard work that built a bad boy. It wasn't I'm just going to kick my feet up and press a couple mouse and I'm going to send some people my emailing list, and that's it. That's all I got to do. It was the content and the hard work that built it up. And there's no easy way around this. There's no easy fix
around this. Now, speaking of like, that's, again, there's a different way of doing it, but you really have to, the bottom line is you really have to sell directly to the consumer and not have another company do it. You just can't. Now, here we go with the goofery, and I call it goofery because... Dude,
I knew you would love this story. I had to send this to you.
Dude, I mean, I young people and young adults, they have to be out. They have to be doing something. They have to be social. They can't be cooped up, so they go out here, spread it, come back to the crib. You're living, with 2-3 generations in a crib. Now your grandmother has it, your grandparents, your mother, your parents have it. It's just ridiculous. So here we go again, up in London or up in England somewhere. I was reading about this like little place right here. It's called Northumbria, or if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, it was a kingdom before it's a lot of
it caused a lot of trouble for England back in the day when they're trying to form.
Right. So here we go. These okay, so a bunch of I mean, come on. It's a bunch of young people and they're like, we have to get out. We have to get out. And so these young folks and organizers, just I guess, promoters, they were trying to put this rave together in like an abandoned warehouse or something like that. Selling tickets, I guess, online, right?
I can't believe they sold physical tickets rather than collect money at the door.
Dude, I can't believe that they actually put this on social media.
Yeah, that's their first blunder. Right. Because here's the thing. There's been thousands of illegal raves been going on this entire year and last year and
going off without a hitch.
And been going without a hitch. Mm-hmm. These bright people decided to use social media and they sold hundreds of tickets. And the police were like, "Oh, word? That's what you guys do it? All right, we're gonna see about that." And so that's the thing is funny to me. In any other situation, they probably would have got away with it, but being online is what did them in. Do you know about this app? I think it's called Vibe or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. I was gonna make a video about it, but it angered me so much. I couldn't do it.
What type of app is it?
There was an app that these guys put together to allow you to meet like-minded people to do a small party, small get-together. Mm-hmm. And so they were saying, well, it's for 3 or 4 people, but people were going to use the app to put hundreds of people together to do a party. And so some journalists found out about it and freaked out. And so I don't like the idea of the journalists shutting it down, but I don't like the idea of them using the app to go do the thing either. Right. So it was a lose-lose situation. I think that the journalist was better off just saying, hey, this thing is going on. But the journalist actually was calling up people trying to stop them and get the person who made the app arrested. And I was like, that's too far. That's a bit far for me.
But this the whole thing is just these the promoters. How irresponsible. And in England, in Great Britain, these are rules and regulations now. You cannot do this. Period. Because if you do, the entire country, if you do, you will get fined. They were even talking about in the same article how someone had a boat party and had 80 people in this boat party. There was some sort of a party up in Staten Island, Long Island somewhere. And it was 500 people up there. And it's just wow, really. And here's the thing, the law over there says that you can have gatherings of up to 15 people. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been to some really slick, not during COVID, but I've before COVID, I've been to some really slick, cool, and hip gatherings with about 15 people, right? Mm-hmm. It's people it's like a knit, nice knit, close knit of people, your close friends. 10, 12 people, 15 people. And I don't even know in the middle of a pandemic, how do you get that? Are you social distancing with 15 people? I wouldn't even do that with 15 people. But I do know pre-pandemic, I went to some really cool events where there were only 10 or 15 people and had a great time. Mm-hmm. So people were just we have to get out. We have to go to raves. We have to party. We have to breathe on people. We have to cough on people. We have to sneeze. We have to do all this sort of stuff. And inside, if this is an abandoned warehouse, I don't think the ventilation is going to be that great. What do you think?
Well, because it's an abandoned warehouse, there's no regulation to make sure anything's done correctly. Right. But I think that if the 15 people get together is fine. I don't think you have a problem with, this many people, whatever. The issue here is that promoters and I guess DJs were trying to do a show and make money. And so the English government kind of cut everybody off at the knees. Yep. So you've created these desperate people. They shut off the whole nightlife. They just decimated it. And so you make desperate people in these situations where well, we need 200 people to show up rather than the 15 that were probably done it before. I think that probably this is a self-inflicted wound from the government. They kind of created a situation where these kind of people would do this. And not even just to do this. Like you've turned people into be rebels because you've looked out for every other industry except nightlife, except clubs and bars and restaurant. You basically screwed them over, and so you make people go like, all right, screw you guys. We're just gonna throw a party, 1,000 people, do something about it, and so that's what I think happens here.
Well, yes and no. So, okay, we are in the middle of like a global pandemic. People are dying. Yeah. This thing is contagious. This thing can kill you if you're not healthy. And what governments are trying to do is they're saying, hey, you can't sort of do these things. I mean, even here in America, a lot of small businesses, restaurants, nail salons, beauty salons, just framing shops, everything, just crazy small businesses are just thousands, tens of thousands of them are closed and will never come back. So those small businesses, clubs are even included in those small businesses. And, it's the same thing. If a restaurant is closing because of this, a club may close too, and never come back. So just because you're a club and you sell alcohol doesn't mean that, you're different than any other small business that's having to deal with the same thing, right? So it's just like, and then these party promoters, because I think it's these party promoters who generally have done parties, promoted parties inside a club, which is the next piece we're going to talk about, which is even more fascinating than the piece we're talking about. But how these, now they can't do this because all the clubs are closed, and now they're just trying to, do something, one, totally illegal, two, completely stupid and dumb, It's just like, I mean, are these people who are raving with you, are they signing like NDAs? Like if you catch corona, you cannot sue us, I mean, the police came and like they took all, these guys were rolling up with the equipment already, the party speakers, the CDJs, the Nexus, they were like ready. Yeah. They caught them right in the act. They were like, the equipment belongs to us. And, the people who paid, everything. And they were like, the people who paid for the tickets, they basically said, if you don't think about coming here, because if you do, you'll be treated just like the organizers. So, this is happening all over the country. This is happening all over the world, where people are like trying, especially in places like England, the United States, maybe even Canada, maybe even Mexico. Maybe even, I mean, it was happening in France too, where these people were like doing stuff in the south of France and all that craziness. It's just like,
it's going on everywhere.
Yeah, because it's just like these young people, they're just like, we need to do something. We need to be out. We need to be together. We need to be social. It's just like, no, you don't. I mean, like.
Well, I think that a factor too is that they just said, all right, stay home. And then that's it. That's as far as they went. There was no thought into, okay, well, what are we going to do with all the young people?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with these restaurants and bars and clubs and lounges? And what are we going to do with? They focus initially on larger businesses, your box stores, your stock markets, your big thing. They focus on
hedge funds, banks,
hedge funds. They did all of that. And then a third of the economy, they're like, just stay home. I don't see what the big deal is. And so like this kind of stuff was bound to happen because of the lack of interest and thought into what can we do about these people.
I know,
they thought there's thought into, okay, what are we going to do with the school? Okay, if you want to open a school, you have to have this glass partition here. You have to have 30 feet apart for they thought about all of these things. And then there's the industry that is a third of your economy, a third of your overall economy. And you guys are just like, suck it up. You guys will be all right. And so you're going to make knuckleheads. Like you're going to make this thing happen. So it's like, your bootleggers and your people who are making alcohol.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, we're just going to stop. You can't sell alcohol anymore. All right, problem solved. We don't have to think about this ever again. Like, no, it's not over. This thing's just beginning.
Dude, listen, man. and that's so true because, even with the, when Wall Street, when we had the sort of recession back in 2008 and, they had the package that helped really Wall Street, big banks, big
Yeah,
businesses.
it only helped Wall
It
Street.
really didn't it's just like, dude, we
Only
don't care about, small
the
business,
homeowners.
small business, exactly, homeowners. It's just like, and that's exactly what happened here. It's just like
It's the
they have this
same
like,
thing.
right, the stimulus money, and it's just like, no, we're helping out big business because big business give us donations, and we have to make sure that they're taken care of. It's a totally backward system, and it's
a terrible system.
when I think about this, I always think about like, where is there a country that you can go to that sort of cares about, small business and the population? Because, and I think that maybe Germany, believe it or not, but
yeah, it's not Canada. Canada
right,
did not do
it's
that.
not America.
They screwed I think Canada, all of North America,
yeah,
including Mexico. They took care of all of the big business and the donors, and they said screw you to everybody else. Now, Canada did a little bit more than America did, but they didn't do enough.
Yeah.
So like they kind of helped out people mortgages for 6 months.
Right.
But this thing wasn't over in 6 months.
Yeah.
So okay, all right, you looked this up for a couple months. Okay, but we still have to start paying again. You know, and the same thing with the types of industries. They looked after certain industries, and then other people, they're not eligible. That's true. Certain incomes are not eligible. And like you didn't.
Wow.
If you say you can't go, and Canada did a harder lockdown than a lot of places. I would say Canada's lockdown for a good chunk of areas, kind of like how New York did in LA, where they were like, well, you can't go to the beach. You can't go to this. You can't go to that. You can't do anything. We're shutting all this stuff down. But the box store next door to you, they can stay open. And like, people were like, what? No, that doesn't make any sense. And so we had a kerfuffle, I would say, over a couple of restaurants where like, this Costco next door to us is allowed to open. And they're allowed to have a sit-down restaurant. Well, you're telling me that my little mom and pop restaurant can't stay open, whereas McDonald's and Wendy's can, and you can go in Wendy's and sit down. Like this doesn't, and so like they're like, oh, our bad. All right, we can do drive-through at Wendy's, but like we don't have a drive-through at our restaurant,
or even close schools for like for like K through 12. It's just like. And the science is saying that, what?
Yeah,
schools are actually kind of safe.
Great. It's the safest place to be.
Right. Someone was joking online. They were like, well, hey, you know what? Now that restaurants are back open, we'll send our kids to restaurants to go to school.
Yeah.
It's just like.
Exactly.
Really.
There was no thought to it. Like, and I think that's the problem where you get these people who are extra skeptical about the virus or whatever. You create this monster because there's no consistency to any of the things you guys are trying to do. So you're saying, I can't sit here, but I can sit in this other restaurant, or I can go to this Costco, I can go to this like this. There's no consistency. Certain types of private schools can stay open. Public schools close, and they close because the school unions said that we don't want to go back to work. And so like they should have. Because they didn't say, okay, whoa, you can't do that. They're like our government up here, they're beholden to the student unions, the school unions, the teachers unions, and that kind of stuff. They're a huge, powerful entity for getting people elected because they bundle their money together and they support candidates. And so if you wrong the teachers union, you're going to have problems running for what office.
That is
and the teachers union said, we're not going back to school. I don't care what you tell us. We're not going back to school. And they're battling them for a whole year and a half now, or how many months now? A year and 2 months. They've been battling the teachers union to kind of start the schools open. They're like, nope, not going to happen. Yeah. I think they're finally going to try and get some schools back.
Try something, huh?
Next week, I think that's what they said. And I'm like, this is not going to work. You're making people become conspiracy theorists.
Yeah,
you're making people become, you know what? Screw it. I'll just throw a rave. Screw it.
Anti-vaxxers, I mean, just putting out disinformation, misinformation. It's just ridiculous. So the question is there a country out there, small country, where it's all about small business, mom and pop shops. It's all about the population. It's not about, the largest company employing the most people. Where is that country? And I want to know because maybe I'll move there,
I haven't seen it. Honestly, I think that everyone's bungled this thing in some degree.
I think so too, because I think we were, it's and a lot of experts say that, it's basically, it's going to be here for years, Yeah. It's going to be here for a long time. So,
yeah. And so I think that countries should be, rather than focusing on hoping for the best or hoping it'll go away, people need to figure out how to live with it and go back to some normalcy.
Yeah.
And so that's what they need to be worried about right now instead of everything else. So
now, speaking of shutdown, we have, again, this is a fascinating story and also another fascinating book to possibly read. I
want to get this book.
I want to get this book, right? We were talking about Harold Heath book about 99% of the DJs, never make it. And again, that's not an epiphany, right? But this book here, it's by Maria Staggett and Timo Stein. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's basically, it's called Hush, Hush, Berlin Club Culture and a Time of Silence. And it's basically a book about talking about, how these about 20 or 25 clubs, they're, basically one person's a photographer, the other person's a journalist. So they're talking to these club owners, everyone in the club scene, who works in the club scene, be it, the club owners, the bartenders, the janitors, everyone, the dancers, the DJs. They're talking about everyone in the club scene in Berlin. All the clubs are closed, and these are mostly clubs in East Berlin. And they're talking to these people how the pandemic, has affected their business, just their work, everything else. Again, it sounds like a fascinating book to just sit back and read.
Yeah. So they went to, I don't know how many clubs was it?
20 to 25.
Yeah. And they talked to the owners, everybody. They talked to them, tried to get their perspective, their thoughts on what's happened and the government's response to it. And, they took these eerie pictures of just this empty places.
Yeah.
I think that if you didn't know about, there's a pandemic going on and you took these pictures, it wouldn't mean anything. I was like, it's the empty club. But because of the whole situation, everything that you know about this thing, it just adds this extra layer of meaning to it. And, for us in the industry, and we've both played in clubs, we've played in bars and lounges, this hits close to home. And I think the other DJs probably will be fascinated to see other people's perspective on it. And that's kind of what I wanted to do when I talk about this stuff, is that, everybody's isolated into their city and whatever's going on with their city. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of talk about what is happening to other people. And so they're missing out on the other parts of the story. And I think the story is fascinating.
This is a fascinating story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through the little piece that DJ Times did. And, they just again, just going through some of the clubs and pictures of the clubs, talking to some of the people. Yeah, the images are weird. Yeah. And the other cool thing about this here is again, this is a photographer and a journalist. So there are going to be really dope pictures in this book. I can only imagine. I'm picking this book up, but you can only get it from a specific area now, but hopefully it'll be available on Amazon or something like that.
Yeah.
I may buy it from the source, but I think it's a German company, so I don't know how the mail and everything is going to work.
It's going to take 20 years before you get this thing.
20 years, dude. Forget about it. It will take 20 years before this thing gets here. It's definitely with the mail going on here. This is a fascinating story. It just goes to show you that we're not talking about places like Miami and Atlanta. I keep bringing them up because apparently there's no pandemic in those two cities, right?
These guys are chilling, nothing's going on.
They're open. Everything's open for business. But there are, here in DC, the club scene has just been completely decimated. Baltimore club scene completely decimated. New York decimated. LA, San Francisco gone. Right. I'm quite sure Toronto, Montreal,
it's the same.
Quebec, all of them. You know, just like it's Chicago, Detroit. It's just forget about it. It's just how are these clubs going to come back? You know, one,
I don't think they are.
And I was about to say, and two, are they still in business? Because clubs don't make money off of like, they're not making money off the door. You know, you make money in clubs from the alcohol.
Bar.
Yeah,
it's only from the bar.
It's from the bar.
You're barely, I don't even think you're breaking in just having people in there.
No, not
if people don't buy drinks and you buy your $15 beer and your $10 martini, whatever, that's how they're making their money.
That's how they make their money.
It's the only way to make their money. And so these guys, I don't know if you saw this. There's an article about how much beer has been wasted. It's become spoiled in England.
Yeah.
And they tried to quantify how much it was. It's a lot. But, you know, these are things that it's going bad and you have to, because it's in the kegs or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's in a bottle and the bottle could last a couple months or whatever.
Yeah.
It has to be sold at a certain date or else you got to throw it out. So these are thousands of dollars in alcohol these guys can't get back on top of the rent. And I'm fairly certain if you have a rent in a city or a lease or whatever for a building somewhere downtown, it's expensive.
Yeah.
In its bare existence, it's expensive.
Right. I mean, and you're right. If you're a club owner or a bar owner in the downtown area, yes, a lot of like serious hardcore clubs are on the outskirts, so the rent isn't that much. But, you know, I know a lot of clubs. I know a lot of bars that are like in the downtown area. You are paying a grip on a monthly basis for rent.
Yes.
So you may not even be open now. Your business may be gone.
And it's a big venue too. We're talking $20,000-$30,000 a month in rent from no money.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about, like, at any point in your life about opening a club, a bar, a lounge, anything like that?
I have. I thought about at the beginning of this when all this became a cluster. I thought about it. I was like, you know, whoever can hang on. And, you know, back in January last year, I was like, whoever can hang on, or, you know, probably people who are in the club industry, they're probably going to sell their club for cheap. So if you can get some investments and get in there for cheap, and then,
hold on to it.
You just hold on, and when everything turns around, it's going to be good to go. And just slowly, my thought process is like, oh, this is not going to work. These things are done. They're done for good. I think like in a city like mine, the club, we had a robust, when I say robust, our club district was like New York, like meatpacking district, whatever. Like it was just wall to wall clubs, every type of music you want to listen to. And the city decided to flatten that and put condos there. And so slowly our club district just died. And then now there's only a couple clubs in the city and they're all in the outskirts. And then people throw small parties or they go to lounges and bars and they do things there. But and the other thing too is they go to boats. They do boat parties. So like weekly, there's crazy boat parties in the city where it's like, I'll say like 400 or 500 people on a boat.
Wow, that's
and cool. They make a bunch of money from that because you can charge more because it's not a club. Because you're getting the scenery and that vibe. So that's become a huge industry and a replacement for clubs. But you know, you can't do that now. You can't go to bars and clubs and restaurants. So I think that the idea of buying a club now doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And the city's definitely trying to get rid of them just because of reasons. They're trying to cram as many people downtown as physically possible for whatever reason. And so I think that a lot of it's not feasible right now. But the thing is, though, if you make one and people are allowed to go out, you're going to make money. Just because of the fact that there's not a lot of places to go to and people want to party.
You know,
so
there are new restaurants and things like that opening up here, you know. So and you know, I don't know if I would do a club. I would definitely do like a bar or a lounge or something like that.
Yeah, a lounge. It's less it's less risk.
I would go small
And,
too. I mean,
yeah,
because
you go small.
I've always been fascinated with like smaller spots, right? Because sometimes I will walk into a small spot and I'm like, wow, look what they've done to this space, and it's small. I mean, it could probably hold 100, 150, 200 people max. That's okay. I mean, your overhead isn't crazy, your insurance isn't ridiculous, and everything works out well. You were talking about the spoiled beer. They were talking about that early on in the pandemic here in this area, how like distributors and just beer makers, they were just they had to throw beer away because it was just going bad. It's just like you could have easily knocked on, put out an APB like, people, if you want free beer, come and get it. Believe me, I'd have been right there. I would have gotten
free
me some
or
Stella,
at cost.
some like Goose Island. Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Just say like, instead of the bottles costing you $12, whatever it costs, keg at $24, wherever that is, just cost. Just come pick this up. $5. Come get this beer. People would have done that.
I was
done that safely.
Easily. I was in this back in Pittsburgh. I was in this this speakeasy. I mean, it was super small. I mean, I would probably 60, 70 people can fit into this spot, right? Man, it was the dopest spot, just, I mean, you felt sexy being in this spot, it was just so cool. And, it was just like people, depending on who you're trying to promote this to, right? There is a place to promote to millennials, your Y, your generation Y and your Z, millennials and Zers, Gen Xers, dare I say even baby boomers, they like to go out to, but there's, even the like basically like older millennials and like younger Gen Xers and older and mid Gen Xers, people look for things to do outside of like, booty shaking and clubs and things of that nature. People just want to go have some drinks, go to a sexy spot, maybe a hip spot, listen to a DJ spin some music in the background, things like that. I think that bars, and even the name bar sounds a little weird. Lounge is a little cooler. Speakeasy, something like that. But this place,
lounge sounds fancier.
Right. It was the smallest spot, and I was like, it was the coolest spot. Just going there. The drinks were expensive, but it was just like that. They were perfect. They didn't even have rail drinks. That's how dope the spot was. They didn't even have rail drinks. They sold nothing but top shelf. It was the coolest spot.
See, that's dope. Because like I used to every Wednesday. I used to go to this place that was like an open mic for musicians and singers. So like some of the dopest musicians in the city would go there and just hop on the drums and just vibe out. And people would go and sing songs, whatever. And it was dope. I used to love going there every Wednesday. They shut down, I think, a week or two into this. They're like, it's not possible. We can't hold it up.
Yeah.
Because they had the venue and it was a small spot. I think it held maybe 80 people, 70 people tops, like crammed together, maybe 70 people.
But
and
it
was a good
how
vibe.
Cool was that though? Exactly. How cool? I was about to ask you, like the vibe was probably dope. It wasn't crazy crowded, and it was small enough, even 80 people in there. It was so small that even 30 people would look kind of cool in there, right?
Because it was some of the dopest musicians in the whole city would go there. And they just vibe out, and people will come up like, "Hey, I'm a singer. I want to." You get to sing 2 songs, whatever. And so you get on stage and you be like, "Yo, we're gonna play Billie Jean." All right, cool. Drummer's like, "All right, I know what to do." Guitar player's like, "I know the bass line already." They just jam out, and they would make like remixes, and they had DJs there. Like it was a dope vibe, man.
It was dope, man. I love vibes like that.
Yeah, like I used to bring anytime anyone came to see, I'm like, "Yo, you got to go here. You got to come to this place." Yeah. And grab 2 beers and listen to these singers. Singers were phenomenal. I don't think there was any like terrible people who sang. All the musicians were the top shelf. Like you were talking touring musicians that work with huge superstars. They would all come to the spot, and then you would just be like, "Hey, I need a guitar player. Hey, I need a drummer," and like you just be, "Hey, huddle up, and this is what song we're gonna play." Vibe out. And like I like that. That's so like if I was gonna do something, that's the kind of energy I would want to put out there. I probably wouldn't do like a club thing
Yeah.
or even have a DJ in there. I probably wouldn't do that. I would
I would like
probably just,
a
I like the live
DJ.
musicians.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, listen, that's one of the things I miss so much is just listening, going places to listen to live music. You know, going to a dope jazz club. You know, just going to like a small concert of like friends you may know who have a band or something like that. That's like one of the things I miss. I mean, I stopped going to clubs a long time ago. And I still go to clubs, but only if there's a specific type of music. Like, for instance, I'm totally into deep house music. So if there is a party like and someone's doing deep house music, again, pre-pandemic, you know, a lot of times these parties happen, they started at like 1 a.m. and then ended at like, 8 or 9. So it was okay to like just roll up at 3 a.m. and party for a few hours and come back. So something like that is totally different. And the vibe is totally different too. These are smaller spots, someone's just renting something out, vibe it out that way. But this, I think, I totally missed that. But this book here, getting back to this book, Hush, the Berlin Club Culture in the Time of Silence, when this comes out, I definitely want this to read because this just seems really fascinating.
Read through and see what they said, and because the thing is, though, it's from the other DJs and the owner's perspective, and I think that it's been bothering me for pretty much this entire thing is that it's a voice that nobody's listening to.
Yeah.
And I have personal feelings about this because I'm in the industry or whatever and I DJ, but people they disregarded it like it wasn't important. And I keep going back. It's a third of the economy. 1/3. And it's a cash-based business. So, their T4s and whatever your income tax things, it's not going to be the same as somebody else. It's a lot of tips and whatever. So it's a huge chunk of income that's been washed away, and
really
people just didn't care. They didn't think about it's important. And I think that a lot of people, especially in government, thought, oh, well, they'll close up today and they'll be back here in a couple months. It'll be fine.
No, it's not that easy.
That business model is designed as it's basically cash. It's straight to your pocket and out of your pocket into another thing. So the money's in your pocket like a couple days, maybe a day before you go drop it in the bank. So, or even before you start paying for other things. So like it's just there was no thought into these people and what they're going through. So that's why the book really interests me. So I definitely want to buy the book. And
I'm checking it out for sure. And again, another sort of, person or people to have on the podcast and just like talking to them, like, just working through the book and just like, hey, how'd you come up with this? Why? Again, would be a fascinating interview and definitely something I'm going to look into and see if we can get them up on a pod. Maybe they'll even send us a book to a couple copies to read, and then we can.
I mean, that'd be great too. That'd be great too.
Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I'm DJ Keo. Thank you for watching.
There you go. Thanks again, and until next time, peace.